Alright, so this is my aquaponics system. It is the first one I've ever done. It was fun. It was a challenge. Mostly cutting the barrel in half, getting the barrel to set right in the frame, and getting it all plumbed correctly and getting the pump working correctly. Say the most challenging part has been balancing the outflow with the outflow, or the inflow on the ball valve with the outflow from the bell siphon. It's something that you kind of just have to play with depending on the size of your tank, the gallons per minute or hour of your pump, how many head. Head is the distance that the water has to travel up to its outflow point, and the size of your grow bed. I've been playing with it for about a week now, just balancing it out. I finally filled the bed up today with the lava rock, the medium, and everything seems to be working perfectly. It's cycled about 20, 30 times since I finished it this morning, and everything's looking good. Okay, so basically what I did is I took a 55-gallon drum and I cut it in half lengthwise. The approximate dimensions of the drum were 37 high and 23 wide as far as the diameter of the barrel. So each section is approximately 37 long by 11.5 deep. It's very important if you use this type of barrel, when you cut it in half, you make sure that you do not cut through the bung. Okay? Don't cut through that. If you do cut through that, you just ruin the barrel. Make sure you have at least one bung, if there are two, on the bottom of each side of the barrel. You can use this as a secondary drain if you need to. Let's see, what else? The frame itself is approximately 26 left to right, the way we're looking at it now, 37 front to back, and 40 high. It's basically just 2x4s. Once I finish transplanting and making sure that everything is working correctly, I will cover the outside with either cedar or redwood or something so it looks nice, and so my wife doesn't yell at me for putting another crappy thing in the backyard. The pump, basically it's a it's a Lang 3400 1/20th of a horse RPM fluid pump. I got it from work. A lot of people might not have access to something like this for free. You can buy one. Depending on the style you get, these go for anywhere from $120 to $180. You can start off with something as simple as a $30 submersible aquarium pump from Walmart. It's up to you, entirely within your budget. I use all 3/4 inch PVC. Some places I've reduced it to restrict the flow, or I have, this used to be a carbon bed filter, but I've since changed it out for just a straight cloth and medium filter. All it needs to do is just filter out some of the solids before they enter the actual impeller housing for the pump. As you can see, the water is kind of dirty because I put the new lava rock in this morning. This will filter out in probably about 6 or 7 more hours. It'll be almost crystal clear by the time I get up tomorrow morning. But as you can see, the water here is crystal clear. So it's being filtered, it just has to turn it several times. I would say the most challenging part of this was not just cutting the barrel in half and figuring out how to do that correctly, but if the barrel has been used and reused and used and reused, it's not going to be a perfect cylinder. It's going to be kind of cocked a little bit. So you have to take that into account when you go to put it into your frame. Once you put water and rock and medium in it, everything will sort of level out. So don't be freaked out if when you get it all framed out and squared up and then you set it on the ground and it's empty and one of the legs is not touching the ground. That'll all balance out. I had the same problem. The second most challenging part was balancing the inflow from the pump with the outflow of the bell siphon. because I'm using such a, I guess, a high-powered pump, it's restricted a good amount right now. It's probably cut down to a third of its max output. But because I'm using such a high output pump, I had to put a ball valve in here to restrict the inflow, because my outflow is only a ½ inch. So the tank would fill up and stay full at max inflow, and it wouldn't drain fast enough. So that's something that I've been playing with for about a week off and on. It's been a challenge, but it's also been fun at the same time. My outflow is simply a bulkhead fitting with a ½ inch OD, or ID I should say, to a ½ inch T, another 12 inch ½ inch nipple that I cut in half, and then you can't see it right now, and I'm not going to hang my camera over the water, but underneath, on the underside of the pipe, there are holes drilled, 6 per side, and once the water starts draining out, it pours into the tank and aerates the water, and it cycles about, I'd say 4 to 5 times an hour, maybe even 6. I haven't really clocked it this morning since I put the rock in, but it does it several times an hour, which is great, because you want to turn your tank at least 3 times an hour so that any ammonia that you have is being moved through your filter medium into your lava rock, where your bacteria growth is going to break it down into nitrates, or nitrogen, fish or plant food. Like I said, this is my first one. This is the first video I've made of it. It looks kind of rough right now, but like I said, I promised my wife that I would frame it out, that I would trim it with something nice and stain it so it looked nice. I transplanted the eggplant yesterday, as well as the okra. They seem to be doing fine still. I just transplanted this strawberry this morning, and this melon this morning as well. There are several fish in there right now. There's probably 13 or 14 fish, some small goldfish, and then some other ones, some edible kind. I'm not going to tell you which though. Let's see. Everything seems to be working good. The bell siphon is essentially a 2-inch piece of ABS with a cap on it. I have a 1-inch piece of PVC reduced down to a ½ inch. The 1-inch PVC is approximately 9 inches. The bell siphon is approximately 9 inches as well. You want to have the overall length of your PVC bell, or your ABS bell, whatever you make it out of, about the same as the length of your inner nipple, the nipple that the water actually is going to flow out through. The reason being is you're going to have about a ½ to 3/4 of an inch difference from the top of your 3/4 inch pipe to the actual crown of your cap, because it's a dome essentially. That will allow your siphon to build up enough suction so it works properly. I filled it up to about 9 or 10 inches or so of rock. That way the water line stays just below the top surface of the rock, because you don't actually want the stem of the plants to be submerged in water, because that's going to cause them to rot. That's why you don't water a regular soil garden every single day unless it's like 180,000 degrees. You want the root zone to be wet, but you want it to be continuously cycling with fresh water. As you can see, it's draining now, and it's good. Plenty of aeration. The fish seem to be happy. The only fish that I've lost were in the first 2 or 3 days, which, you buy goldfish and you put them in your tank at home, and you buy 30 of them because you know you're going to lose 15 in the first day. It's just the way it is. But other than that, they seem to be happy. I even caught a frog at work and threw it in here, but I don't know what happened to him. That's pretty much it. It's been fun. It's been simple. Hopefully it's everything everybody claims it to be. And I've already have plans for if this does pan out, that this fall, when I rip the soil garden out, I will build an even bigger aquaponics system over there. But I'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. Thanks.
So this is my aquaponic system. Down below I have a fish tank and one large fish down here. He's kind of a sucker fish that cleans the tank. I also have a couple of small tetras. 3 small tetras, 2 kind of ghost fish. I don't know if you can see them in the tank. And then inside this piece of wood there's actually 3 loaches, clown loaches, so the yellow ones with the white stripes. Up above is where my plants are growing, and right now I'm just growing mint, so that's the only thing I'm growing. I found that I did grow some lettuce, and I was actually growing a tomato plant, but because I only have one light source on top, when the tomato plant started growing too high, the ones down below weren't getting enough light, so I found that I would only grow, you know, one type of plant at a time. So right now I'm doing mint, and you can see it's growing. I've already cut a lot of them because they've grown too big. So it's kind of nice, and it's taken over the whole system. This actually started from one plant. The starting plant is over here, down there. Then it kind of expanded, and since then I've actually taken some snipping or clips, and I've actually replanted them as well. So there's one back here that I've replanted, and it's doing really well as well. Now the way this system works is it is an ebb and flow system. So from my tank I have a pump down here, so it sucks up the water. That water goes down into a canister. So that comes down at the base. There is a canister which then pumps the water back up into my system where I'm growing my mint. And in here it's just a bucket with some rocks in it. So these are just the pebbles. And what happens is it fills up with water. Once the water reaches a certain height, it starts flowing down this tube, in the tube back into the tank. And so it does fill up. You can see the water's rising right now, and it will reach a certain point. If I open this up in here, it's actually a bell siphon that I'm using. So what happens, I'll just pull this off. What happens is it reaches a certain height, and then the water starts flowing down the tube. Once it starts flowing down the tube, it creates a siphon, and once it creates that siphon, it won't let up on that siphon until it reaches the bottom. So that's on here, there's some holes at the bottom, and that will release some air into the siphon, and once the air is released into the siphon stops. So right now you can see the water is actually up at the top of the rocks. And I'll just put the bell back on. And once that's backed on, it should actually start the siphon as well. So you can see here the water's starting to flow. In fact, now let me just see if it kickstarts it. Might have to give it. So here you can see the siphon has started, and it's going down. Now we'll do this automatically, and if I go in the back here, you can see it's just pushing into the back into the tank down below. And the other thing that this is beneficial to the tank, it does push out the bubbles as well, so it kind of aerates the water. I do have kind of a little bubbler over on the side as well. And so the water's draining. Well, I'll record one whole cycle here. Now, a couple of things that I noticed with the bell siphon, at least, is I did start to put little holes at the top. So here I put a little air hole, because I found sometimes it wasn't releasing the siphon. And the other thing down here is I found it was really good to put this elbow in, because that kind of kick starts the siphon as well. So if it's just a straight tube going down, sometimes I found that the siphon didn't start up. So it did stop. So you can see here there's no water going through. And so that means that the water is actually filling up in the bucket. I don't know if you can see that line of water that's slowly going up. And then once it reaches a certain height, I'll go down here to the tube. You can see a little bit of water starting to go at this point. And then it starts getting a little bit faster. And then eventually it will kick in and it'll just start sucking all the water out. So here it goes, and now it's going to take all the water. And so now if I looked at the water level, you'll start to see the water level drop slowly, and then at some point it will stop. Once it reaches a certain level, the air is going to get into that bell. Once that air gets into the bell, it will stop the siphon. And that's how my system works.
Okay, so here's just a quick rundown of the first IBC / swimming pool aquaponics setup that I've made. I just finished most of this yesterday, and so it's not quite cleared up yet from having a little bit of stagnant water, but basically here's the IBC with the top cut off of it. Actually, technically this is the bottom because the top is going to be the garden bed that goes on top of it, on top eventually. Here's some plumbing. Basically, this part right here is the drain, and then this part right here is the filler. And these are just some PVC that I put on here to keep from cutting myself on these sharp edges. So this drain goes down and then goes underneath these swimming pools that I have made for garden beds, and they're all connected by one pipe. So this drain in the middle of this garden bed and this drain in the middle of this garden bed, those are two bell siphons. And then this one just kind of free flows down through that same pipe. Because I don't have a lot of water pressure right now with the pump that I have, this water going down this pipe helps create enough volume going through that when these fill up, eventually the bell siphons will activate. And then they all drain out into kind of a sump of sorts over here, which is kind of a funny story, but I'll get into it another time. But that's about it. There's not a lot to see fish-wise because the water is so murky right now. But in a couple days it'll clear up, I think. And hopefully we'll have something to show you in there. There's just a little bit of duckweed on here right now that was kind of left from when I had this just sitting with water in it. But if you notice this little pool over here off to the side, this is just extra water I have on standby in case I have to add water to the system. I don't want to use just fresh water from the hose because it's too chlorinated for the fish. And then this one is another reserve that I have, also holding water in case I need to add some to the system. Eventually this will get on top of here and be planted with plants as well, but I haven't figured out how to do that just yet. I think this nice herky piece of plywood is going to go on top and provide the support that I need, because that thing is heavy, probably a couple 100 pounds with water and gravel in it. So that's where I'm at. Thanks for watching.
Okay, I'd like to demonstrate here what we've done with our aquaponic system in using the minnows or mosquito fish, Gambusia offens. This entire aquaponic system has turned into a mosquito-eating system. So if I move these little flats, this is oriental greens right here. I'm going to move them out of the way so you can see what's underneath. And what's under here, lettuce, is a whole bunch of mosquito fish. Now these mosquito fish eat all the malaria-carrying, dengue-carrying, West Nile-carrying mosquito larvae. This has turned this entire system into a mosquito trap. We have no mosquitoes on our 7-acre property, even though we are in the middle of a very, very high mosquito area. Our neighbors also have no mosquitoes on their property. The mosquitoes come here to lay their eggs. There's lots and lots of water, which looks like an ideal place to lay eggs to mosquitoes. But instead of the larvae hatching and living in this still water, this still fresh water, the larvae are eaten by mosquito fish. That is what has turned this entire system into a giant mosquito trap.
Good evening. This is Chaplain Ian Perry from the Missions of Love. We are starting a school of aquaponics. This part that we're showing today is how to make a biofilter. A biofilter is very important in an aquaponics system if you're going to have a lot of fish in your system. Normally on a continuous flow you would not need a biofilter because you have a set amount of fish and the system cleans itself. But if you're going to have a large amount of fish versus a large amount of plants, it's good to have a biofilter to get some of the concentrated stuff that's in the water out. But it can be very expensive if you buy one, and we're going to show you how to make one inexpensively. Typically a biofilter can cost upwards of several $100s or even more. We're going to show you how to make it for only $8, and that's here in St. Cloud, Florida. The prices will be dependent upon where you're from. But let me show you what you're going to need. First thing you're going to need is media material. We're using screen material like you would find in your windows of your house. You can use plastic. You could buy a whole bunch of plastics and use it, sponges or anything. But for today, for simplicity and cost purposes, we're only going to use some screen material. You're going to need scissors. You're going to need a kitchen faucet sprayer holder. This is what you would find in the sink. You would have your sprayer would be in there and you would spray your dishes and put it in here. It's very inexpensive. You only need 2 of them. So we got 2. You need a screwdriver, 10 sheet metal screws. Any size will do. Just don't get the smallest. You don't need the largest. I recommend getting galvanized because you don't want them to rust. Also, you're going to need an air pump. You can get an air pump at any plant store, pets food store, Walmart. Find a used one. You could probably find one in Craigslist or somewhere. Of course, what comes with the thing is the air stone, and I'll explain why you need that. And then you have here just a typical tub. This is an 18-gallon tub. They do sell them at 10 gallons. They cost about the same, which is about $5 to $6 for this tub. This is the actual filter. Last 2 things you're going to need is, got this. This holds 2-liter bottles. Got this free. You get it from your Publix. Just ask them for a holder or go near the trash bin. If they're throwing one away, you get that. This here is a filter for an air conditioner. We're just going to put a second filter there for the media. You don't really need it, but we're just going to do that. And this is very inexpensive. Water flows through it. If you do use anything, make sure it's free of chemicals. It's imperative because you will kill the fish. This is all you need to have a biofilter. Now I'm going to go here and explain how to make it from step by step. When I'm going to make it in front of you, I'm just not going to show you one and that's running, and then you're going to have to decide yourself how to make it. The first thing we do here is we know that we're going to have to screw down the top. So I'm going to put that aside for later. First thing I'm going to do is, if you look here, I've got 2 holes that I already pre-drilled. When you find the device, whatever you use to go through the holes, it should look like this. So you have to get through here. It has a clamp on the other side. As you can see here, it gets closer and the plastic is between and it closes it and clamps it here so no water will get through. If you want to put a little bit extra sealant, you can put some silicone in there, but it's not really necessary. When I was in Haiti, they didn't sometimes use things like this, so you're going to have to improvise to do it the cheapest way you can. Now what I did here is I drilled 2 holes, I placed that in. What's going to happen is, actually I'm going to do it this way. As you notice, I put this here, I put it here. What I'm going to have here is from the aqua system, the water is going to go in here on the bottom. I want it to go to the bottom, and as it goes, the water is going to be forced through the medium material to filter it, and it's going to come out here, and I will put this one in. And as you can see, it doesn't take very long to build this whole device. In fact, when I use it, the very first time I use it, I'm going to try not to use any silicone or anything of any kind, because we're trying to show you how to use it quickly and easily. Now, next step, very important. We're going to take the air filter that we need. You get what I did here is I just pre-punched a hole here. If you can see, there's a little hole just big enough for the hose to go through. But it's above the water line here. I don't want it below, I want it above. Because I don't want any water to drip out for any going out of there. So there, I got it in. Now what I'm going to do here, it's very important, I put the stone in there, very technical here as you can see. I place it in the bottom, just like that. Now, I have it just laying there in the bottom. This is where this comes into place. I put it upside down. See, the air hose is going to be underneath it. If I put the air hose here and the media sits on top of it, it's not going to let it work right. The bacteria needs to grow and it needs oxygen. That's the reason you're using the air hose. Now you can get a cheaper, inexpensive air hose. As you notice, I just placed it in the very bottom. That's what it looks like. This is almost completely done. The air hose gives oxygen to the system so the bacteria will grow and everything, and so the biofilter works as a biofilter should. Now, as the water comes in the bottom, I'm going to show you how I made this. I took some screen and I cut it like this. There's no set length, it's how much you want it. And I'm going to make it into a knot. Just a little knot like this. You don't want it drum tight like that because you want all the surface area you have to be visible. So let's undo this one. I made it a little too tight to show you. When you do it, just do it nice and loose. And then you fill it in. And you fill it to pretty close to the top. I pre-made these so we don't have to sit here and do that. Let me show you. As I fill it in, this is so simple. You just put it in here. You can push it down a little bit. There we are. And I will show you what it looks like when it's full. As you notice, this is what it looks like. Very simple. Now, if you want to use the green scrubby pad that I showed you, I would put this like this. Okay, water can still flow through it. As you notice, make sure this is not occluded or closed like that. You want it underneath it. So what I did here, to make it simple, it breathes, so it's like a two-stage filter. Notice it's like that. No chemicals. Water's going to be forced through it, come to the top. Now, notice this hose here hooks to the water pump. Now, I do recommend this. When you do make this in such a way that you doesn't use a lot of power. And the thing that I do recommend is solar energy. This whole system here uses very few watts. You can use a solar cell, so you're not using any electricity wherever in the world you may be. Next, the top. I put the top on, but as you notice, the water is going to go in here and come out here. If I don't secure the top, what's the first thing that's going to happen when I fill it with water? It's going to pop up, water's going to be everywhere. So what we did, we took the screws like this. We have a hex screwdriver. You can use a regular screwdriver, whatever size screw. I do recommend a screw about this size here. The package says this was a number 10 5x8 screw. Just, you don't have to stick to a certain number screw. I do recommend putting, as you see right here, I'm just going to do this. You just put in a hole. If you look closely, we put a screw here beside the handles, right here. And I did these other two here. Now, if for some reason the hole will get messed up because it is a sheet screw, you can definitely put it in front of you when you do it. You can make the holes in a different spot if you need to, so you don't have to go buy another container and start all over. There we are. Then put this screw in here. Now you don't need a drill. The reason we're doing it like this, simplicity is critically important. If you were to be in a place such as where there's a tornado, a disaster happen, you can't afford to buy a lot of things. Or you're in an area you just don't have the money. So I recommend using this. Now what's the great thing about this, you can clean it easily by taking the screws out. And of course you would use the water on any plants that you have to fertilize them in the house, flowers or whatever. It's good. It's not like a hydroponic system where the water you're getting rid of it is now what they call a, how would you say, it's not a thing. EPA needs to check it because it's bad for the ground because it's got a lot of chemicals and stuff in it. This is purely natural because we're using the aquaponic system. And you will be seeing that we're going to be teaching you a two-step system that you can use this. Simplicity. Again, we're showing you because we want you to know that it's a free thing that we're showing you to do, step by step. You can modify this, make it better, worse. This is just simple. You don't want to spend a whole lot of money because if you don't have it, you can't. And this is how it works. This is a complete system. This is all it is for a biofilter. $8 and you have it. Now I look forward to seeing you. If you have any other questions, feel free to call, write me at ki4ngz@yahoo.com. You can look at our YouTube site. We have a lot of pictures and questions. Feel free to email me or leave a comment and we'll help you in any way we can. This is Missions of Love, School of Aquaponics, and I mean, you have a good time growing something.